everyone. I wanted to make a video looking at Michio Kushi's astrology chart, going through his natal and the 5th and 11th harmonic aspects. I'll describe more what those mean as I get there. Now, this is Michio Kushi's birth chart. I don't know his birth time, so this is just set to 12 p.m., so that's why the sun is here at the top. It could be anywhere, really. So the houses are not accurate. So I'm not reading the houses, just the positions, but there's a lot to go on with just the positions of the planets in relation to each other. He has a very fascinating chart, born May 17th, 1926 in Japan. Basically, if you just look at the aspects, I mean, the lines here, you can see the harmony between the overall planet orientation. It looks very orderly and organized. Just if you know nothing, you just see this big square and this big triangle with the kite here, the cross. So just upon looking at it, you know that somebody born with this configuration, anyone born at this time during this day, is going to be quite unique, I would say. But let's start with his sun. His sun is in a very unique position. It's in Taurus. So just a bit about Taurus. First, Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac. It's represented by number 2, and it's the bull. The bull is solid earth. It's fixed earth. So it's very, very stable and grounded and stubborn and practical. The bull is very slow. Taurus is very slow, but that does not mean unintelligent. In fact, Taurus can be slow to understand things sometimes. It can take them a while to learn things, but in fact, Taurus makes some of the best teachers, maybe even the best teachers of all, because of their ability to process information into the most simple aspects. When a Taurus understands something, they understand it fully. They understand it in its most simple terms, and therefore, this is why they can make the best teachers, because they can share that information in the most simple terms so that everyone can understand it. They make it the most applicable. And you might think, well, Aries is number 1. They're probably even more simple. Actually, no, because they're a cardinal fire. So Aries is much more passionate and inspiring. You know, they can rile people up with their fire and their passion. But for teaching concepts, Taurus is bar none the best. They have a very simple mind. They can break the most complex things down into the most simple terms. So that's number 1 about Taurus. Number 2 is that it's very practical, and Taurus also relates to food and finance. But and there's other things dealing with food here. But for Michio, the food aspect is very clear. Macrobiotics. He taught macrobiotics. Sun in Taurus. That's a great sign. There's been plenty of other people with Sun in Taurus that have been great teachers of humanity. Krishnamurti is one of them. My father, another one. But what's really interesting is the fixed star that he was born under, Algol. This is a very, very unique and interesting fixed star. It's actually a triple star. It's called the blinking demon star. The demon's head, Algol. Algol is comes from the Arabic Ras al Ghul, of which that's the root word of the word ghoul and alcohol. Algol is 3 stars. 1 star is further out, but then there's a binary star that revolves around each other, a bigger one and a smaller one, and they're different colors. But when the smaller one gets in front of the bigger one, it dims the light. So that's why it's called the blinking demon star. I don't remember the exact timing, but it's like every 2 or 3 days, it becomes dim. So it's like blinking. And the ancients knew about it. They thought this is actually considered the most malefic, evil star in the whole night sky. Out of all the stars, Algol is considered the worst, the most malefic. And I'll tell you why. In Hebrew, it's called Rosh Satan, meaning Satan's head. The mythology associated with Algol has to do with Medusa. And I kind of forgot to do my due diligence and research the fine details. So I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of Medusa. Medusa was a pretty maiden that the god Neptune, who's god of the ocean, Neptune is also a planet that rules Pisces, and Pisces is represented by the ocean. So it's very linear in that way. It's very relevant in that sense. So Neptune, the god of the ocean, rapes this pretty maiden Medusa. And this is symbolic because gods are not people. You know, whenever you have rapes or things like that in ancient mythology, it actually means something significant. So I'm going to get to what it means. So Medusa, Neptune rapes Medusa, and I can't remember. Someone turns her into the Gorgon Medusa with the snake body and the snakes for hair, and then she turns men into stone. And the symbology of that is that Neptune has a polarity. Neptune in astrology. The higher polarity, because it rules Pisces in the 12th house. So the higher polarity is the highest truth, really. Spirituality and compassion and love. On the lower end, the lower manifestation is escapism, dreams, delusion, lies, deceit, but also drugs and alcohol. So being raped by Neptune means becoming a drug addict or alcoholic. So you can see, also, remember I said Algol is the root of alcohol, right? So this blinking demon star relates to substance abuse on one side. There's another side to it, which I'm getting to. So, and a lot of people who have planets conjunct Algol are easily get sucked into drugs and alcohol or other substances. Now, Perseus was tasked with the job of defeating Medusa. And Perseus was aided by Hermes, which is Mercury, the planet Mercury, which represents the intellect, and one other, Pallas Athena, which is an asteroid. Mercury, Hermes, gave Perseus the sword, and that's the sword of discrimination, of logic, of the lower mind, of being able to clearly discriminate between things. That's what a sword does. It cuts things, it slices things. Pallas Athena gave him the shield that was reflective, and he could see Medusa through, so he didn't have to look directly at. And Pallas Athena, who is the warrior goddess, who, by the way, Wonder Woman is modeled after Pallas Athena. So if you want an image, it's Wonder Woman. Pallas Athena prefers peace and wisdom over battle, but she's prepared for battle nonetheless. And if it comes to that, she will battle. But her strength is in strategy. All right, you know, in war, the art of war, you need good strategy. So Hermes gives, Mercury gives Perseus the sword. Pallas Athena gives Perseus the shield of strategy and reflection, of thought, being able to reflect deeply upon something before acting. So here he has wisdom and discrimination. And because of that, he can defeat Medusa, and he cuts off Medusa's head. And that is not being seduced by drugs and alcohol, or also someone who is under the influence of drugs and alcohol, because people, when they fall into that side of things, they become very manipulative. And I'm sure plenty of you know anyone who has gone into, getting seduced by drugs and alcohol. They also become like a seducer. They have their ways of manipulation, lies, and deceit, and it's very easy for them to lie and take advantage of others. So it's both those parallels. Not being deceived by this lower end of Neptune, of drugs and alcohol and escapism, on either end of either becoming an alcoholic, or overindulging in alcohol or drugs or other substances. And it's not just limited to drugs and alcohol. It could be, any substance that's overstimulating the mind and losing energy, where you become weak because you're overstimulating yourself. The other side of this is that half of Medusa's head was poison, the other half was medicine. So some people who come here, they really become seduced by drugs and alcohol with the planets, especially Sun, but any planet here. And they become very nasty. In fact, they can become very mean and cruel. This is a very cruel potential point in the chart of anyone, if they have planets here. But on the other hand, this also can relate to heads, because this is Medusa's head. So it's either headless or head. You're either headless and you're just a headless passionate body running around with no head. That means being seduced by drugs and alcohol. Or you are the head, and that means you're a leader and you're a healer and use Medusa's medicine to heal people. Also, very creative people have planets here. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes they become headless, consumed by passion, but also their creativity is off the charts. So it's a very polarized point in the night sky, in the chart of anyone. I know it well because I have Mercury exactly conjunct Algol, and within 3 degrees, Pallas Athena, the asteroid, is right there. So I actually have quite a good combination for it. And even though I was seduced by alcohol, I could say that in the past, even though I had my reasons for it, I'm not anymore. But that's Mercury and Pallas working together to discriminate and use wisdom. Yeah. So that's an advantage. If you have a planet here and you overcome the seductive side, it's very powerful, very potent. My father also has Sun conjunct Algol. So heads, leaders, healers, and very creative types have planets conjunct Algol. So that's the first thing to know about Michio. This is a very, very potent point. One of the most potent points in the whole night sky, right here, 25, 26 degrees of Taurus in the tropical zodiac. All right, so that's his sun. We know he's a leader, a healer, right from that one position. Okay, that's very strong. And the next thing to notice is that he has this really nice grand cross, fixed grand cross. Sun opposite Saturn in Scorpio, square Jupiter in Aquarius, and Neptune and Ceres in Leo. So let me talk about Neptune and Ceres in Leo. Oh, first of all, just the grand cross, what a square does. These are 4 squares and 2 oppositions. Squares are very motivating. They are not a comfortable aspect, they're a challenging aspect. It's the 4th harmonic, 4th aspect. It motivates because it's like sitting in an uncomfortable chair or uncomfortable bed. You want to get up and you do stuff because you just can't sit there. With this grand cross, he cannot sit there. Michio was very motivated his whole life to achieve things. You see that right here, a fixed grand cross. He's very stubborn, very motivated. Okay, and look at the planets: Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, and Ceres. Saturn and Jupiter are the authority and the teachers of the night sky. Sun is the sun, it's the center. And Neptune is it's a spiritual, remember I said you got raped by Neptune, that's relating to Algol. High spirituality, and you have to know the person a little bit. We might think, whoa, they have potential to get lost. in drugs and alcohol. But we know that Michio smoked his whole life and drank lots of coffee and didn't eat that well. Well, that's Algol influence. Got to forgive him because it's a very powerful. It's the most malefic point in the whole, all the night sky. So anyone who has any planets here, they're probably going to be very tempted and very likely to indulge in substances. I know that well. So, you know, it was pretty minimal with Michio. Coffee and cigarettes. It could have been a lot worse. Neptune aspecting the sun always has the same influence. It's very easy for people to get lost in drugs and alcohol. If they don't, they can, you know, manifest the higher aspects of Neptune, which is very high level spirituality. Very high. Neptune is one of the highest. It's the 12th house, right? Pluto may be higher because Pluto's even further out. But anyway, Ceres has to do with food. Interestingly enough, Ceres, the root of Ceres, Ceres is the root of cereal, believe it or not. Yeah, because Ceres, the mythology of Ceres was that she controlled the food, that she controlled the crops. And she had a daughter, Proserpina, something like that. And Pluto, the god of Hades, took Persephone, and Ceres dried up the whole land when she lost her daughter. Ceres is a goddess. She wouldn't allow any crops to grow. And then through a series, that's a pun, exchanges, I can't remember. Persephone, the daughter, spent, I think, half the year with Hades because she ate one of the fruits or something. I'm not 100% clear on this mythology. I forget part of it. But anyway, she spent half her time in Hades and half her time above. So that's why in the winter, no crops grow. And in the summer, the crops grow. So it's half and half. Ceres allowed half the crops to grow half the time and half not. So Ceres has to do with food and crops and cereal especially. So it's interesting, right? Neptune represents dreams and visions as well. So he has a dream of food, a food dream that's motivating his son, his main ego. And it's opposite Jupiter. Jupiter is the guru, the teacher. It's a very spiritual planet. It makes things grow and expand. It's very philosophical. Look at this exact square, 25, 25. Yeah, Jupiter's the teacher. I mean, wherever Jupiter sits in your chart, that's the teacher sign. So he's motivated by, you know, these very evolved planets. These are not the low-level planets. These are high planets. Saturn is if Jupiter is the yin philosophical teacher, Saturn's the yang teacher. Saturn strips you of everything that is unnecessary. Saturn aspecting the sun makes Michio an authority, because that's what Saturn is. It's an authority. And it takes time to master Saturn, and Saturn's the master of time because it is the most outer planet that you can see with the naked eye. And that's why the ancients thought that Saturn was the final limit. There was no planet after Saturn because they didn't have telescopes. We know now that there are, but Saturn's the final planet that you can see with the naked eye. So Saturn sets limitations, and Saturn rules time because it has the slowest orbit out of all the planets that you can see with the naked eye. So, and what the significance of that is that if you can see it with the naked eye, it has effect on the personal daily life of Earth, right? There's a relationship there versus Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which we can't see. So those are impersonal, generational, and spiritual planets. So Saturn can actually represent life, things on Earth, and so can Jupiter, and so can all the other personal planets. These are semi-personal, interpersonal. You know, they have to do more with society. But Sun opposite Saturn also shows potential to be in opposition to authority. So sometimes Michio, I think, runs into issues against authorities, because that's what oppositions can represent. But eventually he becomes the authority, which he was. He was a major authority. And I think that's more because of his level of maturity, his soul level that he came into planet with. He didn't have much problem with Saturn, with authority, but it is potentially there. And it's off by a few degrees, but it's still there. Because we know Michio, we know that he was a very high level soul. Like, I personally believe Michio did not come to resolve karmic lessons for himself, for his own soul growth. I think he came for the benefit of humanity, because he had a very specific purpose to teach a small group of people this very important knowledge we now know of as macrobiotics. So yeah, and all right. Then the other really strong thing he has is this grand water trine. Now, what a trine represents ease of communication between the signs that are included and the planets. So Saturn is playing a double role here. It's in the grand water trine. And so is the sun, because it has the kite. This kite formation is really powerful. These blue lines just show like an innate intelligence and talent, because of it's just such ease of communication. Whereas the red lines show a challenge that's a motivating factor. The blue lines show an ease, an innate ease of intelligence. So these are like inborn skills, and this shows his genius, right? This shows his motivation, the square. This shows his genius. And it's in water. So we know, anyone who knows Michio knew he had very strong psychic abilities. We see that in here, and I'm also going to show you some other things where we can also see it. But it's such a harmonious chart. It's like a beautiful chart to look at, because of the harmonic, the obvious harmonious aspects between the planets. So Saturn in Scorpio is trine Pallas and Moon. Now, remember I said Pallas Athena is Wonder Woman? Basically, she's the goddess of war, but of also strategy and wisdom. And conjunct Moon, it shows one of the things that Pallas is known for is pattern recognition. So Michio was brilliant at being able to identify patterns within people, like looking at people's face. He really broadened and deepened and just gave life to so many things, but physiognomy being one of them, and like diagnosis, that has to do with a strong Pallas Athena, being able to recognize patterns, being able to correlate. This means that means this, okay? So that's, and Moon in Cancer is very, very strong, because Moon rules Cancer. So his mental, emotional. Moon deals with your interpersonal emotional experiences, but it also deals with the mind. It's the inner mind. So, intelligence is also strongly connected to the Moon. And Pallas here is strengthening that. And North Node is destiny. North Node conjunct Pluto. So remember I said he was very driven by this square. Well, after 42, the North Node really becomes active. North Node is where we become obsessed. It's where we can never get enough. And all these planets are closely influenced by North Node. North Node conjunct Pluto is very obsessive. Very, very powerfully obsessive. Pluto is the most outer planet and it's the god of Hades, but it's this inner drive and this inner passion, this deep, deep, obsessive passion, wherever it sits in the chart. So he was emotionally driven to achieve these things in macrobiotics, the dream of food, this is a dream, this is food. And here he was emotionally driven. Cancer is a sign of protection, of care. It's the sign of the mother. And that his moon was here, that it shows that he was very caring for humanity. You know, not like on a personal level. He wasn't, it was, even though moon is personal, his motivation was impersonal because these are such impersonal planets. It shows very big caring for all of humanity. Um, really, really strong, nice, beautiful chart here, combinations. Venus is connected to Pluto. Venus is beauty. Pluto is obsession. He was also obsessed with beauty. So I think that, you know, if we want to make sense of some of his love of women, I guess you could say, we see that here. Pluto, it's actually square, so there's some dissonance there, but it's still strongly motivated towards beauty. Not always harmoniously, but it's there. And here, Uranus is the first planet outside of Saturn. And what Uranus does is it's a planet of brilliance. It's a planet of genius. It rules Aquarius. Aquarius is the 11th sign. And I'm going to show you the 11th harmonic. What 11 means in the zodiac astrology, Aquarius, Uranus, 11th house, it's the buildup of energy before the final release. The final release, but meaning the 12th house and Neptune, being the ocean, the spiritual, the boundless. Uranus is the planet of awakening. It rules revelations and truth and being totally, totally present. Because in the total present moment, we can become enlightened. Only in the present moment can we become enlightened. So Uranus is the planet of enlightenment, of the realization of the truth, being totally, totally in tune with the now and nothing else. Not the past, no past reference, no future reference, just being right here, right now. It's a planet of genius. It can also be a planet of crazy, you know, that's the polarity. But we know in Michio's case, it was a planet of genius. Jesus. And it's in Pisces. So very high level truth. And trine Saturn and Scorpio, depth. Scorpio represents the deep secrets. What this grand water trine is so potent, so psychic, so spiritually oriented. Really strong stuff. And then we have a nice sextile between Mars and Mercury. You know, that's good. Chiron, that's not the ascendant because we don't know where the ascendant is. Chiron's the wounded healer, and it's aspecting sextile with Jupiter. A sextile represents, similar to the trine, but it's more, it deals more with how we relate to others. So it's, whereas a trine it shows like just this fluid brilliance, like this fluid ease of thinking, fast. A sextile can relate to similar, but in relation to others. So it's a subtle difference. It expresses itself more with others. So Chiron, sextile Jupiter. Jupiter is expanding the healing potential of Chiron. Chiron's the wounded healer. It shows wounds, but it also shows healing ability. So he was a healer, no doubt. So essentially, this is his birth chart. When he was young, he was more Capricornian, meaning much more business-like, much less emotional. And I think that's one of the reasons why his teaching changed. And this happens with everyone, with the North Node, South Node axis. When we're young, we're one way, and then when we're old, we're another way, depending on where South Node, North Node hits. He became more obsessive as he got older. When he was younger, he was more dry and intellectual and fascinating. right? The early teachings were fascinating. And as he got older, he became more Cancerian, much more, the Pluto's also destructive. North Node conjunct Pluto has a destructive potential. So, I mean, it's obsessive, it destroys, and then out of the destruction it creates, but there can be a lot of destruction. So that, I think, relates to the first and second half of Michio's life. He became more destructive and obsessive as he got older because of Pluto, North Node conjunct Pluto. Now, I want to look at his fifth house. But briefly, before I do that, I just want to explain, sorry, not fifth house, fifth harmonic chart, what I'm talking about. The aspects are as follows. A conjunction is a first aspect, so we can see that easily. The second aspect is opposition, so we can see that easily here too. The third aspect is the trine, right? Triangle, trine. These are straightforward. They're named after like dividing the chart into threes, you get the trine. The fourth aspect is the square. The fifth aspect means dividing the chart into portions of five, which we can't see as easily. So that's why we need the fifth harmonic chart, which will show any planets that are fifths apart. We're not going to see that easily here. And what that represents is creativity and playfulness. And we know Michio is very creative. So let's look at that first. And then we're going to look at the 11th harmonic chart because we can't see 11th. And there's harmonic charts for every single number, but I specifically choose those two because I know already in advance what they look like and they show something relevant. Fifth harmonic chart shows creativity. And 11th harmonic chart shows something similar to Uranus. It shows brilliance and instability as well, depending on how it's aspected. Genius or craziness. Let's go here. Harmonic chart. So this is showing fifth harmonic aspects, creativity. Okay, conjunctions mean that they are fifth apart. So here's the main thing. We have Neptune and Uranus, 2 degrees apart. Ceres is 7 degrees apart. That's still a conjunction for the fifth harmonic. And South Node is also here. So in Pisces, again, Pisces water, psychic. Uranus, intuition, being totally present. Neptune, high spirituality, dreams, vision. Ceres, food. South Node, destiny, past. South Node shows what we came in with, what we already had learned from past lives. Okay? And creativity. Why creativity? Some people might think, well, he didn't play an instrument, he didn't paint. Well, that's not what I mean by creativity, and that's not really the big picture of creativity. Creativity, the way I'm defining it, and the way I think really universally is applicable, means creating life. Creating life is real creativity. So anything that creates life, like a woman giving birth, is creativity. Health is creativity because it's creating life. We're not reducing life, we're creating life with health. So health teaching about health, cooking healthfully is creative. In fact, versus, fried, delicious, or somebody thinks like, oh, I make the best fried chicken, but they're using factory farm chicken, horrible oil, and just inorganic ingredients. That's very low level creativity. If you're cooking healthy food, that's also delicious. That's very high level creativity. So anything that increases life is creative. This is the fifth harmonic aspect, which relates to the fifth house and Leo and the sun. So, and the sun is endlessly creative. The sun is creating all life on earth. And Neptune also is very creative because Neptune rules the 12th house. And 12th house is our subconscious. And a lot of creativity comes from our subconscious. So this is highly creative aspect. Brilliance, vision, dream, food, and past uh, what he came in with, skills that he already mastered from a past life here. And Saturn is square Uranus. So again, a motivating factor. Saturn in Gemini. Gemini is logic, ruling the lower mind. Saturn is authority. Very showing, creatively, very strong-minded. Lower mind, higher mind, right? And also psychic intuition is very strong here. Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces. So he was endlessly creative. He taught so much stuff. He created so much stuff, wrote so many books. His creative ability was just, enormous, enormous. And there's a nice trine from Juno. Juno represents marriage. So it shows that he was married to his creativity. Okay. Venus is tied in there. Nice sextile from Venus. It shows beauty, especially Venus in Taurus. Venus rules Taurus. It's very beautiful. Adding beauty to his creativity. Venus is very creative as well. So you can see this harmony here. There's actually, no, that's not, remember, it's AC is not, we don't know his birth time, so that's not accurate. But Sun trine Pluto here, again, Pluto being deeply obsessive, powerful, also spiritual, aspecting his Sun, motivating in a harmonious way, the creative aspect. Okay, so fifth house, or fifth harmonic aspect, very strong. Let's go to the 11th. And this is going to show his potential for genius. Two things you can see by the 11th harmonic. Remember, it relates to 11th house, Uranus, and Aquarius. It's the height of energy because 11 is a prime number. It's a very big prime number. It's the highest prime number out of 12. So it's holding so much energy, so much potential. It's not a resting point. It's restless. So it's like just constant, agitating, moving, electric. It's an electric number, 11. It shows great genius potential, but if it's not well aspect, it could also show mental imbalance or mental illness. And people who are mentally ill, it'll show up with this 11th harmonic. Look at this. Just look, 1311, 1331. I mean, how brilliant is that? Uranus and Jupiter in Pisces. Okay? Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius and the 11th house. It's the planet of genius. It's the planet of intuition, of enlightenment. Jupiter expands it. Jupiter is spiritual. Jupiter is the guru, the teacher. In Pisces, Pisces is the planet, the sign of the highest truth, right? This is powerful stuff. And look, 13, North Node, destiny. The nodes rule destiny. And Ceres is here. Again, food. Ceres deals with grain. Ceres, cereal. Trine. Okay? Could you get any more clear? If you have any doubts about astrology, I hope, this might sway you some. This is 13, 13, 13. 13 is a powerful number too, because 13 means beyond 12. It shows an exceptional nature, the nature of 13. We could look at the 13th harmonic too, but I already looked at it. There's something there, but the 11th is where he really stands. Exceptional brilliance. It's right here. The tighter the conjunction, the more significant it is. And here we have Mercury and Saturn. Saturn and Mercury conjunction shows in Taurus, which is very practical, shows a scientific mind. Mercury rules the lower mind, Saturn rules structure. And wherever Saturn touches, it refines and just kind of dries it out and makes it very structurally oriented. So Saturn, Mercury often deals with science, and Taurus rules food. So again, brilliant with his understanding of food, especially in this a dry scientific way, adding to his intuition as well. His psychic intuition, brilliant psychic intuition, right? And it's motivated by, it's square his sun here, so there's some motivating factors, driving factors, but it's touching it, so that's adding to that. So guys, this is this is very telling. It really is. It fits so perfectly for Michio's nature. Here, look at this aspect. Moon, Chiron. Remember I said Chiron's the healer? Moon deals with the inner mind. It's a trine, 25-25. Again, showing brilliant healing ability. In air sign, the air sign is very intellectual. So that's about it. This is amazing stuff to me. I think it's absolutely fantastic. You couldn't get a more clear indication of Michio's psychic brilliance. This is literally what that's showing: psychic brilliance and teaching ability, and just being who everything that Michio was. It's all right here, and in the fifth and in the first chart that I showed you. That's it. That's all I got for you. And I just want to also compare and contrast this a little bit to, the Machabite love of nine key. I know nine star key comes from Japan, and there's sort of this, fascination with it, especially for Westerners being attracted to things that are so polar opposite, yin and yang, West, East meets West, and Japan. But unless you're Japanese, we're really not getting even a fraction of the knowledge of nine star key. And there's no way that anyone is going to be able to see these things in nine star key unless they have access to, again, all the Japanese literature about nine star key. And Japanese are very, secretive about these things. They don't release their information. They're holding on to it tightly. So as Westerners, there's not going to be anyone who can penetrate nine key in the way that Western astrology is open for knowledge and exploration. There's so much information out there that we can utilize. There's no way I could get this information from nine star key. He was 288. That doesn't tell me nearly enough to be able to see these things. And I just noticed this. Another grand air trine with Juno. Okay, Juno showing marriage to healing, to his inner motivation. Like Moon shows our inner mind, our emotions, our heart. He was married to healing. That was his path in life. And in air shows great intellectual capacity. Again, it's really, really fascinating stuff. Okay, I thought this was interesting. I hope you guys do too. And that's it. Thank you.